All right. Chair calls this meeting to order, and I want to calibrate everyone. We've got a short agenda that's in front of us. We'll stick to it and move expeditiously through it. Madam Clerk, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chair recognizes Madam Clerk. This meeting is hereby called to order.
Okay. Call your attention to the invocation of our agenda, which will be delivered today by Pastor Scott Hearn, Senior Pastor of the Trinity on the Hill United Methodist Church. After which, would you please stand in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Let's pray. Oh, gracious God, we give you thanks for all your many blessings that you have poured out upon us. We all know that they still belong to you, but you've entrusted them to us to steward wisely. And we just stop and recognize that they all come from you. We give you thanks. We also recognize, God, that all authority comes from you, and you have entrusted it to certain people. And we give you thanks for that, and we pray blessings on them. We pray for our President Biden and Vice President Harris, and for all of our national leaders, and all for our state leaders and county leaders and city leaders, and these leaders that are before us, God, that you have entrusted this authority to. We pray blessings on them. We pray that you would let us be wise stewards and graceful stewards and lead us in all things. And we pray this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Heron, if you'll pause for a moment.
Can I get you to come? Yeah, you could just stand. We're going to do the social. Come on. Come on. No, sir. Come on. Right here. We're going to do the social distance thing. Reverend Hearn, it's always a pleasure to have you start off our new year with your goodwill and with friends. Today is a delight to have your ecclesiastical presence, invoking the presence of God in our meeting place. We would like to express our thankfulness to you who felt it not troublesome to come and pray for us with such a heartwarming and gratifying prayer. Thank you for your prayer of wisdom, unity, and divine protection. We receive your thoughtfulness as an act of service for God. May he bless you with peace and love for your kindness shown toward us all the year in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
By these presents be it known that Pastor Scott Hearn, Senior Pastor of the Trinity on the Hill United Methodist Church, is the chaplain of the day. May his spiritual guidance and civic leadership serves as an example for all citizens of Augusta. Given under my hand this 18th day of January, 2022, Hardy Davis, Jr., Mayor. Thank you so much.
Would you join me in thanking Pastor Hearn?
We're going top to bottom, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Call your attention to the recognition portion of our agenda. First, we would like to offer our congratulations to Commissioner Francine Scott, if you will please stand, on her appointment to the National League of Cities 2022 Finance, Administration, and Intergovernmental Relations Federal Advocacy Committee. Congratulations. Next, we would like to recognize Commissioner and offer congratulations to Commissioners Brandon Garrett and Catherine McKnight. Would you please stand? Both Commissioner Garrett and Commissioner McKnight obtaining their second level certificate of achievement from the Municipal Training Institute operated through the partnership between the Georgia Municipal Association and the University of Georgia's Carl Vinson Institute of Government. Again, congratulations to all of you. call your attention to the delegation portion of our agenda. Our first delegation, item number C, Mr. Eddie McNair regarding halting code enforcement issues at 1431 Forest Street.
As we hear these delegations, I want to remind the members of the Augusta Commission that in these delegation portions, this is not an action item time, but rather where we receive these as information, and as necessary, we'll engage staff and direct them on the other side of that, okay? Just want to share that. All right, so Mr. McNair, please state for the record your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Eddie McNair. I'm Eddie McNair, 1431 Forest Street. I'm presently living at 6018 Sanibel Drive. My problem is that I was cited by the code enforcement, and they asked me to, I was cited for violations at this property on 1431 Forest. They told me I needed to get a permit to have these repairs done, and it seems virtually impossible to get a permit. And I want to know how, if at all possible, that I can get a permit, or maybe have someone else get one. I know personally, I prefer to be the one to be in charge of who's going to do this work. But it seems that, I don't know, it's pretty much impossible for me to get this done. Yet I've had to go to court and pay fines, and what I guess that's going to continue. I thought it was a rather simple thing of just getting a permit and getting the work done. That's it.
Thank you for your time.
So essentially, if I'm
Okay, hold on just a moment. Hold on just a moment. And if you would tell us who you are and state for the record your name and address as well.
Sure, Janice Ramirez.
Hold on a minute. We're going to call you up.
Okay.
We want to address this delegative matter first, and then you're here listed as part of this, but separately.
She's
okay?
Delegation D.
Yeah, I had requested.
She is.
She's Delegation D.
Right, I know, but you've not called her, have you, Ms. Bonner?
No, sir.
Okay, I didn't think so. Okay, so Mr. McNair.
Yes.
All right. We've heard you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Only that I'm so willing to be compliant, but it seems rather impossible for me.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on. Sir. Hold on. Madam Clerk, our next item, please.
Okay. Our next delegation, Ms. Janice Ramirez, regarding suspending action on code enforcement issues at 1431 Forest Street.
Right. My name is Janice Ramirez, 6018 Sanibel Drive, Augusta, Georgia,
Can you
3901.
suspend, please?
I'm sorry,
Thank
3909.
you.
I'm sorry?
I need you to suspend. That means I haven't called you yet. We've been called up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I want to give you some instructions. Thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Ramirez, you have 5 minutes. If you would state for the record your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes to talk about this subject matter. Thank you.
You're welcome. My name is Janice Ramirez, 6018 Sanibel Drive, Augusta, Georgia, 3909. So part of the problem with the code enforcement and where we are today is that Mr. McNair has, and that is my father, he has been working with Housing and Community Development. He submitted applications to try to get the house fixed, repaired. And so submitting those applications, we haven't been hearing back from Housing and Community Development, and that is Mr. Hawthorne Welcher's department. And he was told some years ago, he submitted an application in 2018, right? And so they told the people downtown, and that is Maria Young, said, okay, you're placed on a waiting list, right? And this is preceding what's happening now with code enforcement. And what Mr. McNair was saying is almost impossible to get anything completed and resolved with the city. And we want to kind of find out, why is it so that we can't get anything accomplished with the city? And why is it so difficult for a man to get a permit if he has requested it. And why is it so difficult to get Housing and Community Development to communicate with us? And two, if he does qualify for the program, which is a rehabilitation program, it's a loan that he would have to repay. Why is it that we can't get that somebody to respond to us and to get Mr. McNair approved so that he can meet the compliance issues with that the city is citing him for? Now he's 75-ish, almost 75. He went to court the other day for the same issue, received a year's probation, community service, and all these other citations and issues with a judge, a magistrate judge, for code enforcement violations. Now we go back to code enforcement. We come back to the city of Augusta. I've reached out to the mayor's office. I've reached out to the city administrator, and we were supposed to be trying to resolve the issue that way. And many of the people that I talked to said, hey, let's just wait and see what the judge says. And even with that, I was supposed to be hearing back from the administrator's office about meeting with him to kind of halt the issues with code enforcement to find out if we can actually get what Mr. McNair needs as my dad. And so what we end up finding out is that in order to fix for a man to fix his house, right, we look at equity and who gets what in America, and who we elect to represent us, right? We see that it's impossible as a homeowner, if you're a low income, to be able to meet code enforcement requirements. So code enforcement says you got to fix this with your house, but then code enforcement also prohibits you from touching the house. And not only that, but if you do qualify to get the permit yourself because you can do it as a homeowner, code enforcement says, well, you need to have insurance, right? You got to have workers' comp in order to fix your house yourself, right? And it costs, we looked at some options for him because the judge said you got 30 days to come back to me and have a permit. Now the permit can't, and obviously it's not that easy to get a permit in Augusta, right? It's a lot of issues that we're dealing with. And so in order to get a permit in Augusta, you got to go through this process. Somebody's got to be a great drawer. You got to have all these, and we're wondering where our elected officials are to support him and us in this issue. And why is it so easy for the city to execute this kind of judgment on somebody, a low income? He's a veteran, right? Somebody who's been working to get these issues resolved through housing and community development, right? And we're not asking them for anything for free because the grant that they offer, I mean, the options that the housing and community development offer are loans. They're small interest loans, right? So we're asking to be eligible for that instead of having to tear his house down because Mr. McNair has been in the community for forever, right? And he pays his taxes faithfully. He doesn't get in trouble. He's not a delinquent old guy, right? He has been trying to comply with code enforcement, but code enforcement makes it absolutely impossible to even do any of the things that they ask you to do, right? And so we look at why the commission has not figured out a way to make it possible that a man who doesn't have $60,000 for insurance for a year, right? What are some options for him to be able to fix his house without having to go to jail in 30 days? Because he has to be back in court in a few days, right? And we have been trying to resolve this issue. I've sat in meetings with everybody that I could think of to try to resolve this. We had Mr. Williams, Commissioner Dennis Williams in the meeting. We have had the building official who says, we're not giving you a permit because we're not giving you a permit, with no explanation at all. I mean, people have been very difficult, and it surprises me that people can act that way in the city. And the city there's nothing we can do about it, right? Because people have always talked about equity and getting things done. Well, what are you going to do to help Mr. McNair get these things resolved? And not only that, we're looking at getting that small loan through housing and community development because he qualifies for it. And he has applied to get some things done at the property before, right? So we wanted to find out if you could also make sure that Mr. McNair can get all of the permits that were ever submitted on his behalf for 1431 Forest Street. And because sometimes daddies don't remember what they need to say when they come before you. And but I wanted to add that to the record. All right, so he needs all of the permits that have ever been submitted. And I also want to find out, why is it so hard to get a permit?
Your time has expired.
That's fine. I hope I got it all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. I appreciate it. All right, Chair recognizes the administrator.
Yes, I think staff is diligently trying to help come to a resolution, but I do think there are some rules and regulations that kind of have to be adhered to that we're bound to. I think one of the things that Mr. and Ms. Ramirez just highlighted is that Mr. Ramirez actually owns the property. I know that Commissioner Dennis Williams also tried to assist in navigating this process, and so the commitment was for Mr. Ramirez to come in and complete the building permit. But the reason that the permit was not provided is because Ms. Ramirez applied for the homeowner's permit, not necessarily Mr. McNair. So we're bound to those rules. And so we'll be able to resolve that if Mr. Ramirez were to apply. But in that time, the magistrate court has issued a judgment which, was provided to my office. I actually received it or read it yesterday during the holiday. And there are some things there that the judgment has put in place that we cannot supersede. And so as we look to resolve this, some of those things would have to be done through the court system, which is outside of our jurisdiction. And so those challenges around the building permit are directly related to the judgment and status at this time.
Thank you, Administrator Donald. I believe this matter has been heard and it is being processed accordingly. With that, we'll receive it as information, Madam Clerk, both items C and D.
And Mr. Mayor, I would just ask that Mr. and Mrs. Ramirez, we do have staff here who can kind of talk to them and help direct them accordingly.
All right, so Mr. McNair and Ms. Ramirez, we have our appointed staff officials from the Planning and Development Department and Housing Community. So if you'll just walk down the center aisle, you can just walk down the center aisle and they'll meet you at the rear of the chambers, okay? We'll give you opportunity. Yeah, and they'll take you out, but they will work expeditiously to help coordinate a resolution. We are here to be a city that's open for business, and I know we are. We've gone from 45 days in the permitting process now to almost 21 days, so I know where we are. I know how well we're working to get those types of things done. And I want to make sure that all those who are listening understand that we've gone from 45 days in the city of Augusta to a little better than 21 days from a permitting standpoint, so we're much more efficient than that. Thank you. Okay. I do want to take an opportunity while we are progressing to the next series of items, and I want to congratulate not only the commissioners from the 8th and the 3rd, but congratulate the commissioner from the 9th for her appointment to the National League of Cities Finance and Administration Advocacy Committee. It's a very important organization. I currently serve on the board and have for the last several years. Our president is Mayor Vince Williams from Union City. I believe he's only the 5th Georgian to serve in that capacity. And so that's a nice feather in the cap of the great state of Georgia. I also might add that my good friend, Commissioner Larry Johnson from DeKalb County, is the president chair of NACO. So Commissioner Scott is in good company. Thank you. There are a host of other opportunities for those of you commissioners who would like to serve on a board advocacy committee for the National League of Cities. I know some people. It's just so you know, I know some people. So if you're interested in, competing for a world championship, then let me know. Madam Clerk, if you want to go to Washington, I know some people.
Mr. Man who know people.
I know some people.
Thank you. Our next delegation, Ms. Deborah Freeman, regarding the recent filming location on the 200 block of Walker Street.
Hello, my name is Deborah Freeman, and I've been a homeowner 9 years. May coming up, it'll be 9 years.
Can
and
we
they.
get you to pull your mic closer to you? Okay, speak into it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Deborah Freeman, and
And
I'm a
Ms. Freeman.
homeowner on Walker Street, 237, for 9 years coming up May. And they made this movie on my
And
street,
you have 5 minutes, Ms.
and it don't take long.
Okay.
And this house that they made the movie in flipped ownership 3 times, and Old Town Leasing Management, since I've been there, has changed 3 times. Okay, Old Town Leasing Management purchased this house, and they made the movie, but they, in the block of the 2nd and 3rd Street, is only 5 homeowners, and I'm one of them. And I was not informed with the letter or orally, and not only me, the other 4 homeowners. They wouldn't come forward, but I did. I don't need no train behind me when I talk. And so I never received the letter. Ms. Bowen made a comment on TV last week that she informed everybody, but it's her word over mine because she hold a position, but she didn't do her job. And that's calling me a liar. And I don't lie. She just didn't do her job. And, you know, and when they made the movie in Harrisburg, they had it all on the TV that they paid everybody. But when they came to Old Town, they didn't pay nobody. They didn't even inform no one. And I'm the one who took all the torture when everybody else benefited from it. And and they don't have a time ordinance. They start at 6 in the morning to 9:30 and 10:30 at night. Bright lights, noise, trucks, generators. I didn't know they let you make a movie in a condemned house with no water or lights. And then, you know, you don't have to give me nothing, but it just was the principle about how unprofessionally it was done. It was inconsiderate, inconvenient, and discriminating and unprofessional. You know, and it's a better way to do that. I know Augusta don't handle their business like that, because if they did, I wouldn't have purchased this home in Richmond County, and this ain't the only property I got.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. I do believe that it's appropriate if there are questions from members
You know,
of
and
the
then
commission.
when I come home, you know, I can't get down my street. I can't get to my house, my driveway, or nothing. They leave all the RV courts all in my yard now, and I've been there 9 years. The city didn't even come prune the trees for me, but they come and half prune the trees for these big trucks to park. And, you know, and then one of the officers that patrols the street made a smart comment when I asked to speak to the location manager, and I was unloading my van. When I walked back to my van, he was talking to the location manager, and every time I could never get to my house from mid-November to December the 17th. That's too long. And he make a smart comment, because I tell him somebody gonna pay me every time I can't get to my house. And he said, well, tell the mayor to pay you from his credit card.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. I believe we've got a representative from the Film Augusta team, Jennifer Bowen. If you'll proceed, if you'll take the one to my right and your left. Thank you. Ms. Freeman, you can be seated right there in the front. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Bowen, I don't want to get into a debate about this matter, but I'd like for you to provide some sense of clarification about what's going on and what has transpired regarding this matter, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Hello, Commissioners. It's happy to be here and explain a little bit about what Film Augusta requires of film productions. Also, in the case that you have additional questions, Mark Crump, who was the location manager on the production The Hill, is also here. He could probably answer some more specific questions. So Film Augusta does have an entire application process and a procedure that we go through, guidelines. In particular, the guideline that most addresses the issue that Ms. Freeman has brought up right now is that we do require productions to notify businesses and neighborhoods of impacted areas of location. That notification does include a written letter that they are to distribute to a certain area, not certainly, you know, entire blocks, but to any properties that would be impacted. And they are to do that at least 2 days before production begins. The production did supply the letter to me that they used to notify neighbors on Walker Street. The production also says that they did have some conversations with Ms. Freeman, and they did notify her. They had many conversations along with all property owners there throughout the production. So while I am very sorry that she is upset and did have some conversations with her, she called my office 2 weeks after production had stopped and let me know that she was unhappy and did share her concerns with me. I did apologize to Ms. Freeman on the phone and told her that I was very sorry that she was unhappy, that I would put her directly in touch with the production who might be able to do something to come to a mutual resolution. So we did that. Mark Crump did have a conversation with her the very same day, and I think Ms. Freeman really wanted you all to know the frustrations that she experienced and the troubles and the concerns that she had, which certainly can be legitimate when you have a production filming on your property. It does disrupt your neighborhood, but it is to the community's good to have that disruption, as film does bring a significant economic impact to our city. So we want our residents to remain film friendly. We want our property owners to continue to embrace it and look for opportunities to find a way to resolve this and smooth this over.
Thank you. I think it would be appropriate then for the conversations to continue with you, Ms. Freeman. Is that what I'm hearing? Miss Freeman, if you'll, we've heard you, so let me resolve this, okay? Ms. Bowen, is there a continued conversation that needs to happen in terms of?
I would be happy to continue conversations. I'm not sure what Ms. Freeman wants from us. She's not yet said, other than she's just very unhappy, and so I'm not sure what the resolution is, but we certainly have heard her and can consider her concerns in the future.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bowen.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question, if you don't mind.
All right, thank you. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to know.
Would you speak into the microphone,
Thank
sir?
you, sir. Just so from Mr. Crump, per se, or either Ms. Bowen, is it from time to time, do you all compensate the neighborhood
Commissioner
when
from
they're
the 6th.
inconvenienced?
Would you just pull it down in front of your mouth? Could you?
Yeah, do you normally compensate the immediate neighborhood that are impacted by when you're making a movie? Do y'all normally take actions and do those things?
I can begin to answer that question, but I would love for Mark to give you the final answer. There is no requirement from Film Augusta through our application process to require that fees be given to people impacted. There is an understanding that the production will negotiate with the location chosen to be filmed. So they are really, they are obligated to work out a deal with the location that they're going to use, and then with any other property that may be in the film, they would then work for compensation. But to just give compensation to a next door neighbor or 3 doors down is not a standard practice in the film industry. They do have a little bit of leeway. For instance, and Mark can tell you the story, but if there is a neighbor 4 houses down who's cutting his grass and the noise is going to interfere with production, then they do have a little bit of an ability to say, would you delay for an hour? And they can compensate that person for that. But there is not any requirement to compensate immediate people who are impacted or who are inconvenienced. And I would also say that if it comes to having to pay people for inconvenience, that will put Augusta at a great disadvantage in the film industry. Right now we are an extremely film-friendly production center, and we really need to continue in that regards in order to continue to grow the industry.
So how do you define when you say in that environment in terms of compensating? So who would you compensate in this instance, even if you consider it based on what Ms. Freeman said? She was saying it was 5 households. Obviously, I know probably was more equipment that probably extended beyond those immediate 5 houses. But in this instance, if as a part of not of a policy, but you can from time to time consider that, who would get that if it was not those particular 5 households that would normally get that?
I'm going to let Mark Crump answer that. That's really at the production's discretion at this point, so I'll let him answer that question.
Mark Crump.
How are you doing, sir?
Well, how are all of y'all?
Fantastic.
All right, so as far as compensation when it comes to, and just to give quick background, I've worked in Atlanta, I've worked in Puerto Rico, Albany, New York, LA. I've worked all over the place. So as a location manager and a production supervisor, On this particular film, I was the supervising location manager as well as the production supervisor. I had a team on the ground. I had a prep team on the ground 3 weeks prior to us even shooting. They all had very nice interactions with Miss Freeman. I had some nice interactions with Miss Freeman. We did have a vehicle that blocked her driveway one day. I am removed. I
Hold
had
on a
that
minute,
vehicle
suspend.
removed.
Everybody suspend. Okay, Ms. Freeman, we've given you an opportunity to speak. And now I need you to give everyone else an opportunity to speak. If necessary, I'll ask you to leave the chamber, okay? No more outbursts. No more outbursts. Thank you. Continue.
I did have that vehicle removed as soon as we realized that it was a problem. My locations team coned off her driveway from then on, from that point forward, when we noticed that we did have talent that parked in front of her driveway. Granted, we don't typically park in front of driveways, and that is a standard that we don't do. This driveway happened to be brick on grass, and so wasn't readily visible to this talent that pulled in that evening. From then on, we made sure it was coned because we assumed our teams would not park there. We made sure they didn't in the future. She was always very friendly and very nice. Now, as far as compensation goes, there are some neighborhoods in the Atlanta area whose neighborhood associations, in order to make sure that they only have a certain level or quality of production come in there and that certain rules are obeyed. There are some neighborhood associations, and it is standard practice for us to check with the neighborhood associations to see if there are certain payoffs that we have to do to be in those neighborhoods. As a standard rule, most neighborhoods do not. When you start getting into some of the more higher end neighborhoods where, people have a certain level of house, then they may not want productions there, and so they put these infringements on productions. It is a lot more difficult to shoot in Atlanta as far as the red tape, I can tell you that. As far as here, one of the things that makes us film friendly is we're not stipulating that a production would have to come in and pay a neighborhood association fee or pay certain neighbors to be in an area. Now, if we are working in the area and 3 houses down, there are dogs that are barking, or the homeowner comes out and starts mowing his lawn. Certainly, we have a day to make, we have a job to do, we have 70 people that are being paid to be there, and in the meantime, our sound is ruined, we can't do our job. So, do we have the freedom as location managers to walk down there and say, look, can you do us a favor? We're here, we got to get this done, for $50, do you mind holding off? And when I say, these payoffs, we're not talking thousands of dollars. We're talking a $50 bill, $100, with which there is associated paperwork, a lot of it. I have to have a W-9. I have to show the state of Georgia where I'm spending that money. So there's a W-9 that's involved, then there's a receipt that's involved, and I have to have a copy of the driver's license, everything else. Because I have to show the state of Georgia where we as a film unit are paying people, and that these people are real and we're not just squirreling money away somewhere else. So we have to have all of their personal information on top of it. So it gets quite tedious as far as that's concerned. But do we have the freedom to do that? Yes. Did one of my assistants, it was Patrick Hickey was my key assistant. I know that he spoke with her. I know my entire prep team that was there have spoken with her. Never was there anything where she had wanted any kind of money from us. Would we have been willing to give her $100 for the inconvenience? Absolutely. But that's about as far as what we would be authorized to go to in that kind of a situation. Did we go onto her property? We were in the easement right of way where we were utilizing the fire hydrant to fill up one of the RVs that was not blocking a fire hydrant nor blocking any driveways there. We did utilize that easement there just from the fire hydrant over. If we stage on a property owner's property, if we were to stage equipment there or people, in that case, a location manager would have to make contact and would have to negotiate a possible rate. There are a lot of property owners that were happy to have us and said, no, if you need to go in my yard, it's fine. There was a property on Taylor Street.
Where, Mark, let me do this. I think that you're giving a pretty fairly subjective expression of how this works generally. And I think that generally answers the commissioner's question, but it's very subjective.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, Ms. Mayor, and I appreciate the thoroughness from the both of y'all as well as Ms. Freeman's concern. The only thing I say at the end of the day, I've heard the inconvenience. I think you all addressed that. But for one last time on your way out the door, maybe there may be some kind of financial resolution that if all this can go away, we don't have no problem in the future. But I'm fine with the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you as well. I think I've got the commissioner from the 4th, he waves. Commissioner from the 1st waves. Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Ms. Freeman, again, if there's additional conversation you'd like to have with the film producers, please do that as you exit the chamber and have a cordial conversation about how best to, going forward, address matters like this, okay? Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you approach? Let me see.
So I was going to delete it now. Oh, do it today. Okay, I'll do it.
Item F is being deleted until February. They're coming in February. There's a request to come in February. That's item F. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Call your attention to our consent agenda, which consists of items 1 through 15. Items 1 through 15. For the benefit of any objectors to our planning petitions, once the petitions are read, would you please signify your objection at that time? Call your attention to item number 2. It's a request with conditions of rezoning from a Zone B1 neighborhood business to a Zone B2 general business affecting property at 3128 Deansbridge Road. That's 3128 Deansbridge Road. Item number 3 is a request for rezoning from a Zone R1A, one family residential, to a Zone B1 neighborhood business affecting property located at 1945 Olive Road. 1945 Olive Road. Are there any objectors to either of those planning petitions? Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, our consent agenda consists of items 1 through 15 with no objectors to either of our planning petitions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 10th to add or remove items from the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add.
Would you speak into the microphone, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add agenda items 17 and 18 to consent.
Okay, there's objection to 18. Okay. All right. Chair recognizes the Mayor Pro Tem.
They got it.
Okay. Okay. All right, Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 7th.
Motion to approve. Second.
It was Mr. Franum and Mr. Hassan, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Voting. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem. No, I'm good. Okay. No, this thing's crazy. Okay. Voting.
That motion carries unanimously. Are we at item 16, sir, or you?
Item 18, please.
18?
Yes.
Okay. Item 18, a motion to rescind the August 17, 2021 appointment of Mr. Danny Ramos and appoint Mr. David Pellier to the Augusta Port Authority.
Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 10th.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any comment on that other than it's my appointment. And I have another position I would like to move Mr. Ramos into that would better fit my needs. And I don't understand the objection from the commissioner from the 6th.
Okay. Thank you. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, when we making an acknowledgement of an appointment we have, we also, when the commission approves it at that point, then that person has a responsibility and a right to serve a term. The term consists of 4 years, short of moral turpitude or something of the missing of meetings and things of that nature. Once a person is appointed there, we, based on our laws, that those persons are appointed to that position. And that's the way that is. So at this point, it's no longer the commission authorized the appointment based on the recommendation, because that's a recommendation, and it has to stand until 4 years unless the person resign themselves or something of that nature.
Okay. I don't know. So I have a simple question.
Yes, sir.
The question that the chair poses to the commissioner from the 6th is that the commissioner from the 10th made an appointment and now wants to rescind that appointment. Are you objecting to that?
The rules object to it, Mr. Mayor. It's not me. I'm trying to abide by the rules that govern us.
Rules. Would you please provide us with a rule reference?
Well, you can look in the book, and it gives you reasons for removal. And that's the missing of meetings and things of that nature. If that hasn't happened, then you have authority to remove a person.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go to the parliamentarian. I've got a series of questions, but let me dispose of this one first. Chair recognizes parliamentarian to clarify what it is the commissioner from the 6th is saying.
Mayor, Commissioners, I was not made aware of any controversy regarding this matter, so I haven't done any research on the matter. And also, I would like to ask a question, if I may.
Please.
Is this appointment, is this a new appointment, or is this appointment, is this an action attempting to be made by a person who is already seated?
It's already seated.
Commissioner from the 10th.
Mr. Ramos is already seated in that appointment, but I wished to move him to another appointment and appoint a new person to the Augusta Port Authority. Mr. Ramos has done nothing wrong. He has served the Port Authority, but I would like to move him to another position that I need him in.
Continue,
if I may,
sir.
Commissioner Clark, if I may, if Mr. Ramos is agreeable with that, wouldn't you achieve the same thing by his resignation?
I have not been able to get
against his
in
will?
touch with him as yet.
What did he say?
Would you speak into the microphone, Commissioner from the 10th?
I have not been able to reach Mr. Ramos as yet. I've left a message, but I have not reached him yet.
All right, parliamentarian, let's do this. This is new to me and perhaps the rest of us. As you've indicated, you've not had a chance to ascertain the conflict in this matter. Might I suggest that we table this until the next full commission meeting?
I have no objections to that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, very well.
Right, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we're going to table this until the next full commission meeting. Okay? Without objection. Okay. Madam Clerk, I believe the only item we've got now is item 16.
Item 16 is to provide an update from Parks and Recreation Director on recommendations for underused parks and facilities and discuss options to utilize the space or relinquish these.
All right, Chair recognizes the Director of Parks and Recreation, Mr. Maurice McDowell. And then we are going to hear first from the Commissioner from the 8th, whose agenda item this is. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 8th.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I bring this back up is late last year we had a conversation around parks, and Director McDowell made a comment that there were some parks that he and his staff have been working on recommending for possible closure, or just looking at the usage of them and to see if there were any better usages. So really, the thing that I was wanting to hear today is that list ready, and just to have a discussion around what those parks were.
Thank you for that. Chair recognizes the Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. And I'd like to make a motion that we have a workshop. I don't think we can make decisions about what we want to do just with the 5-minute presentation by what you do?
Mr. McDowell, Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Recreation Director. I think we need to have a workshop where he can lay out what it is he really wants for us so we can make some informed decisions. I don't think we can have a 5-minute conversation and pretty much get what we want. Thank you. That's my motion.
He's awake. I wasn't asking for, Mayor.
I'm going to come back to the Commissioner from the 8th.
Yeah,
All right,
I wasn't asking for any action to be taken today. I mean, really, this is just an opportunity for us to have a discussion around these, and then if a workshop is needed, I think that is definitely the way to go. But it's kind of hard to enter into a workshop without really understanding or knowing whether a workshop's needed.
Okay. All right, so let's do this. Let's hear this response to the question that's been posed by the Commissioner from the 8th. And then we've got a motion and a second for a workshop. You may change your minds, I'm not sure, but you'll at least hear his response to the question at hand, okay? Chair recognizes the Director of Parks and Recs, Mr. McDowell.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioners. Yes, I would say we have had these discussions to the Commissioner from the 8th several times, but I don't think we're at a position now to discuss that list. And I would say that because there are several things that have taken place since then. And one of those things is the pandemic. And one of the things that we have seen across the nation, including in our own community, is a demand for more public use in terms of space. So what I would like to do is come back a week from Friday with a full analysis to the administrator, to give the administrator office also time to look at this and vet it as well, but come back with an analysis that take into account some of these particular parks that was outlined in our 2016 master plan, and then offer up some recommendation there, but not necessarily divest of those properties, but maybe repurpose those properties where we can make better use of them. So I wouldn't necessarily advocate us divesting of public resources, but definitely taking a look and then come back and having a more robust discussion as to how can we repurpose these open green space areas in some of these parks that are historically have been underutilized. But I think we can take advantage of a unique opportunity based on the numbers that we've seen across the nation in terms of a demand for more public space and more public space use.
All right, Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 8th.
Thank you, Mayor. Director McDowell, I'm disappointed to hear that that we're not even going to have a discussion because we're not quite ready. although I do respect what you said about there being a higher demand for parks, we're constantly seeing messages out there where our community centers are closed because you can't staff them. So, and you know, you mentioned COVID, and we know that that's part of the reasoning behind why you're not able to staff some of these community centers and these parks. So, you know, are we just going to wait until the pandemic's over to have this discussion, or are we just going to keep kicking the can down the road? Just really trying to understand this, because, you know, 3 months ago you said you had 14 or 15 that you thought we should take a look at.
But we haven't shut any of our facility down because we didn't have the staffing. Now, if it was related to pandemic, we had to close facility due to the pandemic and not having staff from that standpoint. You're absolutely correct. But we haven't had to close facility down or have an interruption in service due to a shortage of staff. Now, to your point about facilities, yes, we've always taken a close look at our operation budget from a maintenance standpoint and saw opportunities there for us to, again, reprogram or repurpose certain areas that make sense from an operation and maintenance standpoint. But again, because of the pandemic and what we've seen across the nation, just looking at numbers, there's a high demand for public use and public space. And so rather than divest of those properties, we would much rather say let's repurpose those properties. But again, I don't think we would want to have that type of discussion here in an open forum. I think it would probably be better suited for the commissioners to take that analysis from the department, and then you all vet that in concert with the administrator.
So you're saying you'd rather have the conversation off the floor?
I think that would be appropriate, because that could potentially lead to some real estate.
I'm pretty sure as public elected officials, I'm pretty sure that's not the way that we think that this should be, you know, should really be having this conversation. I know the administrator wants to interject a little bit here, but like I said, I was expecting at least a list just so we all could take a look at it and kind of see where you're tracking. I mean, yeah,
and I think we're going to provide that list as well. But again, I think we have to take a second look at that approach to it in terms of just based on what's happened with the numbers from a public space demand standpoint.
And you've mentioned the national trend. What's your local trend?
Same thing. Since the pandemic, all our outdoor facilities have seen great use. All of our parks have experienced great use just based on the pandemic, because more people are outdoors now, more people are home now, which have driven up the usage of our public spaces.
Are you able to maintain all of this increased activity?
We do as best as we can with the resources that have been allocated for us.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Let me do this. I believe we've got a motion and a second. That's certainly appropriate, but I want to put this squarely where it needs to be put. This body authorized a master plan and a study of all of our recreation and parks facilities, 62 to be exact. And this same body, the commission, we've not done anything with it since that time. I'm going to go there first and suggest that, as the Mayor Pro Tem has indicated, perhaps now is an opportunity for us to take a stop by the side of the road and be thoughtful about how we meet the needs of our citizens from a recreational and a parks perspective, both interior or indoor facilities as well as outdoor facilities. There's a lot of discussion going on across America as a result of the great pandemic that helps facilitate that. So we have this motion. I know the Mayor Pro Tem wants to say something, but I want to take us back to the more meaningful work. As Destination Blueprint, there is the master plan study that was done. And, you know, the community has a tendency to suggest that we do a lot of studies and then we do nothing. Let this not be that case. Let this not be that case. So let's take the stop by the side of the road on the other side of the Mayor Pro Tem's motion with the proper second from the commission from the second. Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem, and then we're going to vote.
Yes, sir. So it is your recommendation right now that we give you some time to look at the situation and maybe come back at a later time?
Oh, absolutely. And again, this is something that is not going to take us 30 days. Again, we've been working on this for quite some time. We're just asking at least a week from Friday to get this information back to the administrator office, because the administrator needs an opportunity as well to vet it and vet our recommendations prior to us taking back before the body for you all to take some sort of action on that.
Okay. So, Administrator, do you think it's appropriate at this time that we vote on a workshop, or just give you some time?
Well, I think if you were to give Director McDowell the time that he's requested, we would be able to bring it back in that workshop to the commission if that's what you deem appropriate.
Yeah, and I would rather we do a workshop rather than sit here and try to debate something for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and then try to make a decision. I'd rather you be able to lay it out on the table so that we all can see it. So we'll let the workshop stand. We can do it in 30 days, 60 days, whatever you want to do. 60 days. Is that good, Mr.?
That's perfectly fine. Like I said, it doesn't take us 60 days, but it's at the will of the commissioner. We don't need 60 days.
If you want to bring it forward, you can. You've already got a framework. You've got a study, a master plan that we've not looked back at and visited since that time.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so we'll give you that time. Let's go with 60 days for a workshop. Is that okay, Mr. Administrator? Mr. Administrator.
Mr. Administrator.
Mr. Administrator.
Yes, sir.
60 days appropriate, you want shorter time?
I think that's fine. We can make that work. Yes,
All right. Looking for a workshop in 60 days.
Okay.
That's the motion.
Voting. Madam Clerk, on the other side of this, would you please transmit electronically the copy of the study? I believe we have it on record and on file to the members of the commission, as well as the administrator and his team.
The master plan study?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Include a copy of our destination blueprint as well. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 6th.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to make a request of the clerk as well. If you have any additional
Would you speak into the
information
microphone, Commissioner?
I'm sorry. This thing is too long, man.
I know. We'll get you a short one.
Okay. If Ms. Bonner has any additional information about board appointments and anything of that, please provide that to the commission as well.
I believe Ms. Bonner has prepared a notebook that's at least 3 inches thick of commissions, authorities, appointments, meeting minutes, and everything else. So
let me ask for clarification.
Okay.
In addition to that, are
Okay.
you asking for the processes that the commission has used for appointments to these boards? Is that what you're?
As well as how persons are to be removed. I know there's additional information, so provide all of it as well.
I thought, okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I'll provide that.
Thank you.
All right,
There's a
Madam
couple
Clerk,
of
we're going to give
ordinances.
Madam Clerk an opportunity to read into the record the vote, and then we'll come back to you.
This motion carries 6-4 with Mr. Mason voting no, Mr. Franum, Mr. Garrett, and Mr. Clark. Voting yes, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dennis Williams, Ms. McKnight, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Ben Hassan, and Ms. Francine Scott.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Commissioner from the 6th, I believe she's clarified it, and you have as well. This meeting stands adjourned.
She waiting on you.